Welcome to another episode of Cruzin with the Coaches, a conversation with Julie and Lee. I am one of your co-hosts, Lee, and as you see, my other co-host, Julie Cruz. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
This is the final episode. Hold on, folks. Pump the brakes. Don't be upset. Final episode of season two. Well, I don't know. We might be on season three. I'm not really sure anymore. But this is the final episode of season two. We're gonna come back, new year, same Lee, same Julie, great content, season three, starting in 2023. So this is we're not gonna talk about like resolutions or anything, because that'd be boring, right? Everybody does that end of the year. So we want to get into something a little different. This is an article that we found from um I think it was CNBC.com. And this is eight types of difficult people, and the reference is really at the workplace. So, uh, anything that you would like to say about difficult people at the workplace before we get into those types?
Just that at this time of year, I hope to break and that we are trying to prepare people for going back to work for dealing with difficult people.
That's
Hopefully,
fair.
you're getting a break. That's all. That's all.
That's at least, and if it's maybe 3-4 days, might not be a week. That's fair. Absolutely. So like I said, this is referenced from CNBC.com, and her name is Amy Gallo. She was doing research for her book, Getting Along. Okay. Sorry, and Harvard researcher. Don't want to discredit her. So, what she found in her research for this book that she's writing, there are roughly eight types of difficult people in the workplace. All right. And she also
Only
gives
8.
tips. Well, this this is her research, but I'd be willing to bet there might be more than eight, or we'll call them
Yeah.
variations. We'll call them variations,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
But the cool thing that she does also is she gives some tips on how to manage or how to deal with these folks. So the first type of difficult person is the passive aggressive person. Now,
Hmm.
again, this is from her research, and this is how she puts it. This is the absolute worst because it's the most common. Okay.
Hmm.
They appear to comply with everyone else with their needs, but they will passively resist the follow through. Or they might use indirect methods to express their thoughts and feelings. And so how they feel and their intentions are never really clear. I think that's fair. We all know, have witnessed or experienced passive aggressive folks. So yeah, that sounds about right, you know?
Well, I would even have to say though, even with the eight variations of people, I mean,
Hmm.
you've probably it's not once you are passive aggressive, you are just a passive aggressive person. I think it's just kind of like where you are in your
Sure.
own mindset where you can have passive aggressive tendencies, but
Hmm.
maybe you're not always passive aggressive.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing too. And thank you for actually putting that in there. It doesn't mean that you have to. It if this is you, you don't have to stay that person.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Or if it's someone else that you've witnessed, they people can change. Yeah, they
Mhm.
don't have to
Mhm.
stay this way.
Right.
The second type of difficult person that she found was the insecure boss, and this can be a challenge for sure. This person tends to be a micromanager, right? Who is nitpicking, or they might be paranoid, and then you start to question everything, right?
Mhm.
That you're doing. They could even hurt your career if they think you're trying to come after their job. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
I I think of like the show The Office, right?
Okay.
Where the guy was always hovering, or the coffee mug, and well, I'm gonna need you to do the like. y- I've I think I've had some insecure bosses, but not directly at
Okay.
me. So I definitely um, have recognized like micromanagers, right? Like
Sure.
it's my way or else, and that kind of kills creativity. It kills like you hire people for a reason, and they have a certain skill set, so you got to trust that they're going to do that. And if they
Right.
don't,
Right.
then you can help support them in learning the skill set they need instead of micromanaging them, and basically they become an automaton or a yes man, you know?
Right. And then the other, but you have to look at the other side of that too,
Hmm.
because if you are finding yourself that you are being micromanaged,
Mm.
make sure that if you are being micromanaged and it is, let's say, errors that are continuously on your part, maybe they actually do exist.
Hmm.
Maybe you need to read things through more thoroughly before
Mm.
you turn them in. Maybe
Mm.
you need to, just dot your I's and check your T's before you turn things in. So, I mean, like, I think sometimes people start to think that they're being micromanaged, but they're
Mm.
actually not even managing themselves, I guess, is
Gotcha.
the best way I
Yeah.
can, you know what I
Could,
mean?
sure. It could be like, and maybe take a reset and extra attention to detail, you know?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. And I've seen that too, where sometimes you get comfortable, and yeah, your focus or attention to detail goes by the wayside a bit. So it might not actually be micromanaging. It might be, how are you showing up? Yeah, 100%.
Right, right. Like, it's, yeah, it's great to meet a deadline, but if you're not meeting the deadline with, the appropriate information, it's
Right.
not very helpful.
Yeah, because then you got to go back and redo it anyway. So guess what?
Exactly.
Deadline didn't get met.
Exactly, exactly.
Now, this next person I have definitely experienced in multiple jobs, especially in the TV world, right? The pessimist. They constantly are pointing out the ways that something can fail, and it seems like they never have anything positive to say. I have experienced, I don't know, again, I've been in the TV world for, almost 30 years now. And what is ironic to me is that as technology gets better, as the equipment changes, and it's hard for some folks who've been in the business for a long time to grow and adapt with those changes.
Mhm.
They get stuck with, well, it used to be this way and it used to be that way. Yeah, you're right. I do get that. And then it's another piece of equipment. Oh, that's not gonna it's not gonna work. This isn't gonna work. This idea is not gonna work. Those kind of things. I've definitely seen that over the years. Um,
Mhm.
I hope not to be that person myself. I don't want to have have been in the business for that long and say, oh yeah, I remember when, and yeah, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that
Well,
guy.
yeah, because then the thing is, if you don't have a pessimist in the office, it might be you.
Yeah.
Just saying.
well, well, luckily at this point it's not me.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
At this point it's not. I might be the victim. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But the next type of person is the victim, who is also a type of pessimist, but feels like, everyone's out to get them. They don't take accountability for their actions, but they're definitely quick to point out the things that other people do wrong.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think we've all kind of seen this kind of person too. You know,
Mhm.
any any thoughts that you'd like to share on? And folks are being specific here. Victims in the workplace. Okay, we're not talking
Yeah.
about outside the workplace, anything like that. Um, anything that you can share or would like to share that you've noticed about victims in the workplace?
Well, I mean, like, I know it says victim, but I also like the
Mhm.
blame game. It's just kind of like,
Mm. Mhm.
it can't always be somebody else's fault, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like taking ownership on the fact that, okay, you know what? I screwed that up. I shouldn't have done this, that, or
Sure.
whatever.
Sure.
Or I should have gave myself the deadline 10 days earlier than what I did, or, you know, like, or just
Yep.
acknowledging the fact that you, like, something happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the other thing. There's
That I
like,
screwed up.
there's got to be some
Yeah.
vulnerability, you know?
Well, the part that kind of sticks out to me about this, and I have seen this firsthand, is where cool. Like everybody makes mistakes, and we get that. And
Hmm.
mistakes do happen. But if you're not taking accountability for your own mistakes, but can't wait to tell me about a mistake someone else made, oh, that's a big one. Like,
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
I've even walked in, and we're changing shifts, and oh yeah, well so and so did this, and this. I was like, huh. As I'm then going through, like, well, I kind of see some things that you did, but hey, who's counting? Who's taking notes here? Nobody, nobody. So
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yep.
definitely witness the victim too. Oh, do we have to read this one? Do we? Can we just skip over this
Yes,
person?
we do.
Yeah. So another difficult person, and no, I'm not triggered or anything, but is called the know-it-all, and they're convinced that they're the smartest person in the room. They, suck up all the air in the room, and they don't have a problem interrupting others. They will happily tell you what's right, even if they're wrong. So, yes, I will. I won't say that I'm a know-it-all. I know that I have been wrongfully accused of being a know-it-all, but to a degree. To a degree.
You know, I will have to say, I was just going to say the same thing. With know-it-alls, it's kind of hard because there are people who are know-it-alls, but there
Sure.
are people who are also confident in what it is that they are saying. So
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that they're always right. It just means they're confident in what they are saying is accurate
It's true.
information. Now,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that they are a know-it-all. It's just that they're pretty convinced in the fact that what they are saying is accurate information.
I'm with it. I'm with it. Yes, I'm confident that what I'm saying is accurate information.
Mhm. So let me disclose that what I'm about to share is accurate information.
Because now, I will say,
That's how you gotta start that.
yeah, I got to disclose it, right? Because I don't,
Right, right.
I don't find joy in pointing out, well, hold on, let me stop there. I do like saying, I do like, I told you so moments. I do like having those, but not in the workplace. Not in the workplace,
Uh,
Um, but I do wholly admit when I make mistakes or when I'm wrong, right?
mhm,
So
right.
part of, I think, the know-it-all accusations have come from, even though, okay, this is best practice and try it this way, do it this way. It's not my fault that I turn out to be correct.
Right?
I can't I can't help that. That's not my fault. So, but yes,
I apologize that you're wrong.
Oh, I'm feeling attacked right now. I don't know. I love that. I'm gonna have to
Uh,
use that. Yeah, I'm sorry that
yeah,
you're wrong.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry that you're wrong.
Oh, that's a good one. The next one, this one feels kind of bad actually. I don't know if I've ever experienced this one. This person type of person is the tormentor. So it's someone that's earned their way to the top by making sacrifices along the way, but they mistreat the people below them. And it could be like, senior colleague who you think is going to mentor you, but they like are making your work life miserable, you know?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, go ahead.
I'm happy
Go
to
ahead.
I'm just saying I'm happy to say I don't think I've ever experienced
The
a
tormentor.
tormentor in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I know people who have. Um, but yeah, like personally, I don't think I've ever had that. But I
Yeah.
remember, again, in the television world, and let me just say that not everyone is meant to be in the television world.
Mm,
The
mhm,
bunch of different personalities for sure, but
mhm,
it's a specific type of skill set to like do television engineering and that kind of thing. And when it's not your background, but you're the manager of people who have that background, that can be
mhm.
tough, you know?
Okay.
So I do remember like there was a certain manager who was tormenting a colleague of mine. I do remember
Okay.
that, you know.
Okay.
I didn't experience it firsthand, but so and I'll explain it this way, right? It is hard to take direction from someone that you know cannot sit down and do what you do for 8 hours. Even with
Mm,
mistakes, they cannot do it. They don't understand the concept. So I think that's where
mhm,
the whole
mhm.
tormenting relationship came from for this former colleague years ago with that particular manager. You know, that's what
So
brings to me. Yeah.
that goes back to that whole, you got a face for radio, right? Right?
Yeah,
So it's like,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
so you have an
very true.
attitude for Snapchat.
If only it
Just
was
saying.
around then. If only it was around then. Absolutely. That would have worked.
Yeah.
Uh, oh, oh, I think okay. Should we should we skip past this one too? So this type of person is the biased, okay?
Mhm.
They knowingly or unknowingly commit microaggressions, and no matter what their intention is with the comments, their behavior is typically inappropriate and can be harmful. Um, yeah. uh, where do we begin with this? But
Yeah.
um, I would imagine. So I'll go out on a limb here with this. I would imagine that you might have experienced this more so than me, not just being a person of color, but also being a woman. You
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
that's I
Absolutely.
think it's a fair statement to say.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because when you're in a boardroom and everyone's like, "Well, who's going to take the notes?" and then they all look at you, you're like,
You're like,
"Seriously?"
I'm the executive director. What are you
Yeah,
talking about?
and it's not even about a title thing, but it's just literally just like
Hmm.
does that even sound appropriate? It's like I don't
Right.
know. It's
Like
bizarre.
who's the help? And they all look at you. You're like,
Right? But it's just
"Y-
yeah, it happens all the time. All the time.
yeah, I've definitely experienced some of that in the workplace.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
have an example that's not entirely in the workplace, but I've been to different, like different big box stores, right? I don't know, Target, whatever. And again, like most times in these stores, there's a certain uniform that the folks wear who are working there, right? Like if it's
Mhm.
Target, it's
Sure.
red, or Home Depot, they got the orange aprons, right? I don't even remember where this was, but for some odd reason, and it's been multiple times at different stores. People will walk to me and say, can you help me with this?
Okay.
And I'm like, well, I don't work here, so no, I can't. Like, I don't know if that's a bias thing because I had to look like I worked there, or I don't get it. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, I don't work here, and no,
So
I'm not
but
going
on
to
the
help
other
you.
side of that
Sorry.
though, yeah, that's happened to me a couple times too, but it's funny because they then follow up with because then you're like, "Oh, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better."
Hmm.
They follow up with, "No, you walk like you know this place, like you own this place." And I'm just like, "Oh, no."
Oh yeah, no, I didn't get that. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I'm like, "No, I got the whole, well, you walk around like you own this place. I thought you." I'm like, "No, no.
Right.
You're cute." That's my
Yeah.
that's cute. That's cute.
And I can see that, right? If they see somebody who they think can help them, because okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've never had that follow up.
Okay. Yeah, I've got that a couple times.
Oh. I think we got one more. Oh yeah, yeah. We got. Oh, this is a good one too. I've experienced this one. So this one is the political operator. They are definitely focused on advancing their career, but unfortunately, it might be at your expense. They are, oh, office politics. Oh, trigger. They get in, they engage in office politics, and it's unavoidable. But they get fixated on getting ahead, and they will run anyone over who's in their way. So yeah, have you experienced any political operators in your career?
Um, I'm gonna say I don't think so. No,
Mhm.
no,
That's a good thing, actually.
yeah, no,
That's a good thing. I'm gonna
not
come
really,
down.
because of what we just said earlier. If you
Mhm.
haven't experienced that person, you might be that person. So, I'm sure
Uh-oh.
I'm not that person, but I'm pretty sure I've also not experienced that person.
So so for all the folks on Twitter and all that, send all of your comments to Julie, but no, I'm kidding.
Oh,
Any
jeez.
emails that come to the show, I will forward them to
Yeah, I'm
Julie
like,
about the political operator.
if you haven't
Yeah.
experienced that person, you might be that person. So,
I think
yikes.
I've
But no,
definitely
I've not.
I've experienced this not quite at my own expense, but again, I've like seen it in action. I've seen this
Okay.
person. Yeah, that's that can be tough because if someone is trying to just mow everybody over to get to the top, right? They might
Right.
become that insecure boss, or they might become one of those other difficult people that are on this list. So
Mhm. Mhm.
that's a tough one. Um, but hey, so those are the 8 types of people. So why don't we take a break, and when we come back, we will talk about the tips that you can use to work with these people. Okay. All right. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, folks, welcome back from that break. As we have been discussing, these are the 8 difficult types of people in the workplace. And so, for a quick recap here, we've got the passive aggressive person, we've got an insecure boss, got the pessimist, the victim, the know it all, the tormentor, the biased, and the political operator. So those, and again, like, to be fair, there's some variations I'm sure that people have seen or witnessed. And Julie and I have never been any of these people on this list ever, ever, ever. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But the one
Yeah.
thing,
Okay.
another cool thing that I'm trying, hard, trying to go past it. I'm not a know-it-all, promise. No, or a tormentor, or a political operator. No, 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 no. But so as Amy Gallo found in her research and added to this article, there are 4 tips that she has for working with these people. Okay. This one is the first tip is actually kind of makes sense, right? Don't actually label this person as passive aggressive, because that's really going to make it
Mhm.
worse. Number one, and and I love the quote. Like, if you call somebody passive aggressive, are they really going to say, "Yeah, you know what, you're right"? I'll stop doing that. I don't think that's ever really worked. So 9 times out of 10, right? 9 times out of 10, it's gonna make them angrier, and the point is to have positive communication. That's what you want to happen. By labeling somebody as they're
Hmm.
acting, it's just gonna shut the communication down. So that's really I like this tip here, you know?
Yeah.
The the second tip, excuse me, is and I've definitely heard people talk about this, and I've kind of coached around this sometimes too, is you're focusing on the content or the subject matter, right? Not the delivery. This one can be a challenge if you're on the receiving end of any of these personality types. But before you decide to react to this person, you know what? Go ahead and ask yourself, what are they trying to get across to you, right? If you can focus on what might be their concern or their question underneath the delivery, you might be able to find out what the real problem is and then be able to communicate in a way that works best for everybody, you know? But this one can be hard because maybe you've had a rough day and you don't feel like taking time to think before you react, you know? Um, but yeah, you just giving it a little bit of thought, trying to get underneath what they're doing or what they're actually, how their delivery is, you know?
Hmm.
Anything you'd like to add to that tip, Julie, or want to go on to the
No, I mean,
third
like
tip?
when we were talking like the micromanager,
Hmm.
if you are turning in work and they're constantly finding errors or whatever, and that's their whole point is they're just showing you what
Hmm.
you keep doing wrong.
Hmm.
Um, maybe it's, you ask, well, what are the things that you think I could do to make it so that by the time it gets to you, it's not having this many errors for us to have to
Mm,
go over, and then finally they'll realize,
sure.
okay, yeah, like try to figure out how you can be positive for both sides, actually.
Yeah, and that's the point. That's a great example of opening the door for that positive communication. Absolutely,
Right. Right.
absolutely. Excuse me. And that kind of goes to this tip too, right? Tip number three is figuring out what the other person cares about. So, um, again, some of these take a little bit of time to actually do, but think about possible things that this person might be able to explain, right? What are their interests? What do they care about? What are they trying to achieve? And you can, and I love, and this is a direct from the article, ask respectfully and without judgment what's going on for them, right? So their
Hmm.
example here is, um, I've noticed that you haven't been responding to any of the emails. Is something wrong? Um, I'm only laughing not because it's a bad tip, but I'm laughing because it doesn't help if you come to somebody like if you're matching their energy with the
Hmm.
difficult communication, it's not going to work.
Right.
So I laugh about the respectfully and without judgment because if you're coming in hot, guess what? They're going to come right back out hot to you, and
Right.
you won't really reach that middle ground that's going to help both of you. That's I I've witnessed and I've done the coming in hot too. Let's just be real.
Hmm. Hmm.
I've done that and
Yeah.
it's not useful, but I did learn from it and we talked it through when the next time we work together and we are on good terms again. So so don't
Because you
so oh go ahead. Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt
just because when dealing with difficult people, we've already said it even earlier, was it's always about being on top, right? They want to
you.
be on
Sure.
top. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to come in hot, they're going to come in hotter, and you're just going to keep it's just not going to be
Mm-hmm.
good.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's definitely a hard space to be, because that means you're going to have to come in and be soft, and we don't always know
Mm-hmm.
how to be soft.
Or don't want to be.
Right, or don't wanna be. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And I realized, like, in the situation I'm talking about, I didn't want to be. Like, I was tired of taking that high road, if you will, right? Or the
Mhm.
road of understanding. And so, yeah, that can make a difference, you know. But
Yeah.
but again, these situations aren't an end all be all. You can come back from
Mhm.
them and have positive communication.
Right.
So then, well, I guess that talks to this tip number 4, right? Call attention to what's happening. So I've definitely coached on this as well. I've tried to tell people when you are trying to hold someone accountable with their actions, you want to take the emotion out of it, right? You don't want to talk
Right.
about how you feel about it or exaggerate what they're doing, like with the words always and never. You don't want to use those.
Oh my god, yes, yes.
But you want to just be factual about, okay, you did this. This is how it affected me in again, we're talking about the workplace, and
Mhm.
then try to find out a solution, right? So
Right.
they take this tip even further with an example, and it kind of goes back to that email, right? You said, this is the example. You said you wanted to help, and you haven't joined 3 meetings that we've had so far. You also didn't respond to the email that I sent last week about next steps. The next one, or the next part of this conversation would then be, um, you explain how their actions affected you, right? So you heard what happened. Then they say, well, I'm disappointed and stressed out because I'm not able to do all the work by myself, and I hoped to have your help. Now,
Mhm.
the one part that I may say not to use is I'm disappointed, right? Because if you're trying to communicate with without judgment, saying I'm disappointed kind of puts a judgment on it. So,
Yeah, I tend to use the word discouraged.
exactly. Yeah. Yep. Because
Yeah.
that leaves room for them to come back and say, "Oh, hey, okay, cool. I do want to help." Right? I'm
Right.
disappointed
Right.
is a judgment that then they're less than what you expected, you know?
Right.
Um,
But, like, even before you even get to this, like, going back
sure.
to tip 3, before you get this far with explaining that you're disappointed or stressed out,
Mhm.
is there anything that I could be doing to help us to have a better collaboration? Should be, like,
Mm.
the next piece of the conversation, and allow that person to respond, because it might be, "Hey, you know, I've got
Mhm.
car issues, I've got this, I couldn't make those meetings that you scheduled." You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, like, giving that person the opportunity to at least have some kind of response before you start saying how you're, quote, unquote, "feeling" about the issue.
Right, right, right. Yes. So yeah, when you like a good point. When you ask them, "Hey, is something wrong?" Allow that space for a response before you jump
Mhm.
into this is how it affected me. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So then once you have jumped into that, right? The final piece of this of tip number 4 is being able to be honest with what you need while still leaving the door open if they want to be part of the solution,
Mhm.
or leaving an exit ramp for them not to be part of it anymore, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
So they say they kind of word it here is if you're still interested in helping out, and I hope you are, I'd like you to attend the meetings. And if not, I need to know so I can find an alternative solution.
And what I
Go.
also would like to add to this
Mhm.
is, um my understanding is if this is emails and
Mhm.
meetings that this person
Mhm.
hasn't attended, I could read this and say, if you're still interested in helping out, because there's always people are like talk about tones and what I'm like, no, I just wrote the
Exactly.
words, pick up the phone, people. Pick up the phone and have this conversation. If they're
Yes.
not attending meetings, they haven't responded to emails, pick up the phone and have an actual conversation.
Yes. That is 100%. It's so well said, right? If all of these messages are going through by text, email,
Mhm.
or we're all on platforms now that you can message people directly, Teams, all that stuff.
Right.
Yes, 100%. Because
Yeah.
like even in that written word, I would probably not say if you're still interested.
Mm,
Just say if you're interested,
yeah.
then hey, this is how we gotta go forward. But if you're not interested, cool, that's okay. Or if not
Right.
even interest, right? If you're still able to be part of this and you want
Mhm.
to, let's move forward this way.
Right.
If you're not able to, cool, let me know and I can find an alternative, right? Because that's an exit ramp for
Yeah.
someone to not have to be part of the project, but still keep their dignity, if you will.
Mhm.
They don't
Right.
have to say
Right.
no, I'm not capable, which means you can't do the job. They don't have to say no, I'm not interested. It's just like I don't have the capacity right now, you know? But you're giving them an
Right.
easy exit.
Right.
But yes, if all this is through written communication, call.
Pick
our
up the
our
phone.
phones
Yes.
our phones these days are supercomputers and they do all this great stuff. They
Right.
still make phone calls.
Yeah.
they, they still make phone calls. So
Yes.
use the phone calls, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, we hope that this episode of Cruising with the Coaches, conversation with Julie and Lee, has helped you into this extra stressful season, holiday season, moving into the new year. Maybe it gives you guys, some newfound energy to like, okay, you know what? Let me try to see how I can create positive energy, positive communication in my workplace. Even if you're working remotely, maybe you got to call somebody.
When people are on break and you get soft, you know what I mean? And you're more chill. Not
Hmm.
to go into work being hypersensitive either, because sometimes when you get
Hmm.
that break from what is or what was the stress of your position, and then you go back into, it's Monday morning and you're back to the rush and all that kind of good stuff, and just trying not to be as hypersensitive to things that may have normally just rolled off your back because you built that tough skin.
Sure,
So I don't
sure.
know. It's hard going back
Yeah,
to work. I get it.
def- definitely a balancing act, But again, you're probably not the only one dealing with it. So the more you can kind of empathize with somebody, the better it does at opening the door for positive communication. All right, folks. Well, this has been the latest episode of Cruising with the Coaches, a conversation with Julie and Lee. As always, you can find us on your favorite streaming platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon. YouTube is Live All Good TV. If you search there on YouTube, and on Traverse TV, streaming platform that is on Roku, Apple, Amazon Fire. It's on the major platforms. Also, folks, it's also in the major, or I guess metro Orlando area. So, folks, if you're in that I-4 corridor in Florida, check us out. All right. Until next time, this is Lee and Julie signing off. We'll see you.